changing happening. There's no variety. Like against a Garrosh, I'm still surprised that we have yet to get a Burst Mage in any way, shape, or form to try to counter a Garrosh. Being able to have that poke is a great tool, exactly. And we're not having that adjustment. Genji is having a rough time against Garrosh, and that's because he doesn't want to be near that fight.
And we've been talking about this earlier already. When you look at the Western Clash, we had a lot more heroes played, just variety-wise, on the Western Clash than we do here at the Eastern Clash. 45 at the Western Clash, and now here so far only 37. And it shows once again that Koreans and just Asian teams in general, like including the Chinese, are very locked into the meta that they think is the best, and then they perfect it on a mechanical level and on the execution side. Whereas when we look towards the Western scene, there is a lot more experimentation that's happening.
Now, this better be a Tyrael pick here from BlossoM for multiple reasons. One, Gandor right now has been a little bit disruptive on some of the picks that he's been wanting to move into. The Nubrak and the Garrosh has been one of the mainstays that they've been going to. But Tyrael's been the third pickup, and they had him a lot yesterday against the one. But with Tempest coming out and banning a Garrosh, and then BlossoM banning a Nubrak, I really hope that Tyrael goes over towards BlossoM, or I feel like their warrior role is going to be struggling, because Gandor has had a hard time this weekend.
But
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, at this point I would say if you already have Maiev as your first pick, which is fantastic for Tempest, that just screams Tyrael.
That it does, and that's why I was kind of hoping that BlossoM may have switched into that Tyrael, maybe get the Junkrat the Tyrael instead of the Genji, but I understand why they picked the Genji, right? The Junkrat at the same time has to be taken away. The Yoink and Boink combo has been a little bit too strong this tournament, so BlossoM wants to keep that away from that Maiev.
Exactly, but there's still a couple of heroes left that you can make work with that Tyrande. Tyrande, we would love to see her, but it's Maiev, the other Night Elven lady. We still have heroes like Zeratul. The VP, as the foundation of every single wombo combo that we've seen here, can be so lethal. However, Zeratul could also be a hero that BlossoM would like to prioritize. We see Wiz on that hero actually to great success, and even without the Warden's Cage, I think Zeratul could also have tremendous impact with that Genji, with that Junkrat.
ETC taken over Tyrael now.
Interesting.
And we have Malfurion, and we talked about Malfurion already a bit. And like, he is absolutely insane. He has been involved in 90% of the games. We have him with 17 wins and 8 losses. It leaves him at nearly a 70% win ratio. Makes him the most successful support and nearly the most successful hero in the entire tournament. So it's very understandable that Tempest immediately locks him down here. But I have to again echo what we said earlier. I expected them to head into a Tyrael there. They go for ETC instead, which still works extremely well with the synergy that they have between the heroes. But a big go-to with Maiev has been Tyrael for Sanctification.
One of the things that we were missing out from BlossoM yesterday during their series against the One is they didn't really draft too many compositions with that much CC. They seem to really really enjoy having the flanks maybe coming in, maybe Wiz being on Blaze, and that's pretty much all the CC they have. They want more damage set up. Tempest seems to be reacting to this pretty well by going pretty aggressive on their front. They have Maiev for Tether, they have the Root from Malfurion, Twilight Dream Silence, and an ETC that can force fights, which might be the major chink in the armor against BlossoM. They don't do well against CC coming their way.
And here goes Zeratul. We talked about this earlier. The Zeratul is so powerful with that unpredictable playstyle, with the VP that can always hit at any given point if you don't pay attention to where he roams from. Now, it's probably going to be an Uther here coming in either banned from Tempest, to be honest, because Nasang is not really known to have like the largest of hero pools, but they go for the Johanna. And the Johanna is a very interesting hero that is normally picked as a counter to the Maiev. She's one of the few heroes that can completely negate any of the CC value from the Umbral Bind.
Now you leave Tyrael open for BlossoM to take, and you have also Uther still available for them. Tempest definitely trying to just shut down those frontliners. And we talked about Gondar a fair bit. He was on the Nubarak yesterday a few times, and he really struggled in that position oftentimes to really have the impact that he was hoping for. And with the ban against Garrosh, that put him under even more pressure. So I'm very curious to see what he's going to end up in this setup. BlossoM has played a bit of Tyrael. They played 3 games with him. They won 2 of them. But I'm really wondering if Tyrael is the answer here for BlossoM, because I can't help but feel that he would not do well against what we see on Tempest
That's
side.
what I'm sitting here looking at right now. I don't feel like Tyrael is the choice, even though he's one of the strong heroes that we've had for the weekend, simply because of that front line, ETC being able to force those fights. Tyrael will struggle if any burst comes from Tempest on this bottom side of the draft. So they're going to wait before moving into their warrior. They want to see what exactly Tempest has available so they can set up Gondor for success. For now, they've moved into the Uther and the Malthael, which continues to be popular, so Wiz will be in the top lane with that Malthael.
Gonna have to jump in, though, and defend Gondar a little bit, to a certain degree. I think teams that so far are not really known to play a double front line or struggle when they do. They don't do well at the Eastern Clash. We saw that with the one as well yesterday, where he was always on by himself. Whenever there was no Blaze to support him, whenever there was no Sonya next to him or something along that line, these solo tanks, the dedicated solo tanks, are struggling in that composition. Because if you can't hold up the meta, if you can't pick a Blaze, for example, you oftentimes leave all the engaging potential up to the Warrior player, and when he's having a hard time, there's only so much you can do.
Then play safer, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We're having too many positions where Gandor's in a spot where he is 2 to 3 steps away from his teammate being able to save him. We've had to use Divine Shields to keep him alive. So hopefully that adjusts. We want to see him successful. We're just saying right now, this tournament has not been his.
And this Tyrael pick on the side of Tempest really worries me even more for BlossoM. We said early on about how we expected Tyrael to have a higher priority for them, thanks to them playing Maiev.
Yep.
Then BlossoM didn't ban it out or pick it up. So now on the last slot, they're able to get Tyrael. It amazes me that on the last position, they're still able to pick him up considering what they're running here. They can combo the Sanctification with ETC's Mosh Pit. They can go and help Maiev out. There are so many synergies on Tempest's side that make it very scary for BlossoM. And there's a lot of tanks still available where BlossoM can say, hey, this is for us an option. Muradin, for example, is something that they can take. The question just is that really the answer to what Tempest has? Because at this point, I would say no.
Muradin right now also would struggle slightly due to an ETC power slide into a Tychus, burning him down. Tether, exactly. Muradin would be able to stay alive, but he would definitely be in a spot where he has to be on point with his positioning. But BlossoM right now has to find a warrior.
Yeah, right now, I was going to say, oh!
Ooh, look at that, Kendrick.
Okay, I know who's going to win that game now. No, in all seriousness, no. There weren't really many warriors left to deal with all that CC potential that Tempest has brought to the table here. The tethers, the silence, the ETC stun control. Now, Varian, of course, is a very, very niche pick in this current meta, to say the least here. He used to be pretty good a couple of months back, but right now what he lacks is early game pressure. That has always been his greatest downside. However, we cannot forget about his tank capability, right? He can become invulnerable if he parries too many auto attacks there, and that against the Maiev and all that CC can be life-saving.
My problem with this setup is that he lacks mobility, and against all the CC that we have and the displacements as well, it's going to be rough going.
He's going to have to tank through it.
Yeah.
Luckily, it's Dragonshire, so they can mitigate that slightly by having a good early game and not falling behind in terms of the turrets. But I agree, like the Varian is one of these heroes that. Yes, Caldor, hello. Varian's one of these heroes that definitely has these drawbacks to him. Wave clear missing out, the mobility, trying to go for an escape. If you have Biobox coming your way, he will fall victim to the opposing team. But I'm hoping, I'm believing, maybe Gandor can show us a new way.
Yeah, is it actually Gandor's time to shine now on that Variant? That remains to be seen. Now, we do have to take a look at Variant's strengths, though. The strengths are locked down. Like, you initiate the fight with a manly war cry, and you taunt that enemy down to you. How much potential do they have to actually kill someone with that draft?
That's a really good question, because normally when you run with Varian, you want burst damage. You want to have a Jaina, a Li Ming, you want to have Curse Bullet available through Greymane. That doesn't exist. The other tool that we oftentimes see is that he's used to lock down a high mobility assassin, and that's also not really on the other side. Yes, you can pressure Maiev a bit, but there's so much protection here. I'm really wondering what exactly the role of Varian is going to be for them. And we're going to find out right now as we're heading into game number 1 between Tempest and Team BlossoM here at the HGC Eastern Clash.
Wow, Trixler, I can't tell you, I can't even begin to tell you how excited I am to cast this game with you. My boy Varian, my boy Trixler, I'm surrounded by manly men, good-looking men as well. BlossoM versus Tempest. Couldn't be more happy.
Kendrick, are you flirting with me right now?
Okay,
how
could I not?
Kendrick and his boys coming on in here. BlossoM versus Tempest going right at it here. I gotta ask you, do you think BlossoM will be able to find the momentum to handle Tempest? With Varian being picked, as you know, you main the character, the early game, 1 through 9, very difficult for him to be able to get to a spot where he can be effective.
Absolutely, and once again, we talked about this single tank dilemma oftentimes that players face. And Varian, out of all the heroes, he's probably the most dependent on a solid hero to follow up on his CC, to maybe lay down the smack. Uther, his alliance brother, could maybe help him out in that regard. However, they're going to take so long, and they're going to have to play so defensively in these early stages, as you pointed out. And on the other hand, if you look at Tempest, their composition just screams pressure, pressure, pressure. ETC, Malfrin, root combo. Maiev wants to catch those people in. It's going to be a clash of styles, if you will. BlossoM needs to survive. Tempest wants to close it in super early.
Well, the good news for BlossoM is that the burst from Tempest is also slightly mitigated, being a Tygus and a Maiev. If you're able to dodge on the Phantom and Eyes and make sure those resets are coming in, you can be in a good spot. So I'm actually looking more towards that Malfurion being in a spot to control the variant. Whenever he goes in for the engage, dropping down a root, giving an escape route to the teammates, will allow for Tempest to be able to handle that pressure. If that ever does falter, though, that's where I can see a variant engage into a Junkrat, Rip Tire into a Genji, kill on any target.
And I love the point that you brought up there, Trick. You cannot underestimate the pressure, the responsibilities that lie on Malfurion's shoulders. You silence all those targets. You mitigate all that self-protecting value on a Malthael, on a Turiel. If there is no parry, you can burst down a variant. If there is no self-heal Malthael, he dies so much more easily. Even a Genji, in the right moment, I can't see this being a game with tranquility.
Well, so far, we have a 2-1-2 here for BlossoM. This is a pretty good lane setup to try and get towards that Tim in a safe manner, putting Varian in the middle just to poke around in case the shrines are grabbed. But with Uther being in the bottom, being able to poke down this Turiel with the help of a Junkrat, like Modern is doing right now, they are going to be in a spot where they control well. They got the wave clear, they got decent damage, and they have a decent escape route with Modern being able to jump back with those traps.
And you know, I had a conversation with Wolf backstage, and he was telling me that Modern Life was a player that was kind of controversial and heavily criticized in Korea for not performing as well as he could have, for not performing well in 2017 in particular. However, I think in this tournament, he's actually stepped up tremendously. Yesterday, we've seen a couple of really sweet melee assassin plays on both Zeratul and Genji. I really think Modern Life is going to show up big time this game, especially on that Junkrat.
We'll see if he can stand tall here. He has to, definitely on Dragon Shot. This is one of the biggest tests for BlossoM, and so far, they are passing the test. High in experience here, 5 3/4 to 5 1/4 of Tempest. Tempest has done a pretty good job of pushing this top lane in. They won the night camp battle, if you will, clearing it out first, so they're able to grab a turret for it. But putting multiple members up in this top lane will mean that BlossoM can make a decision to rush down and grab their Giants they want. And they send Genji back to possibly do so. The issue is with Tempest coming to this top lane, BlossoM has to have a perfect rotation up here to prevent too much hitting their fort.
Yeah, and I really like this early game pressure coming in from Tempest now in the top lane. As you said, if the enemy team goes for those mercenary camps like we see Dudu and Modern Life here, then you can really abuse that time window to get a tower or two and then sneak back bottom just in time to defend with those siege shines. Let's see what Tempest is up to.
They're invading. ETC comes in, he drops the power slide, he contests last moment, but Modern making the play, knocking sign off there will allow Ganor to grab the Giants. Now suddenly, Tempest are in a spot where they have to skedaddle away so they don't lose out on a trade, but BlossoM almost biting a bullet there with ETC maybe taking those Giants.
Yeah, BlossoM is doing considerably well here. I expected them to fall behind much more in the early game, getting pressured way more. But due to all that disengage potential, due to the pretty amazing wave clear as well by Malthael and Junkrat there as well, they're actually staying in this quite well. Wiz trying to go for a sneaky Dragon Knight was prevented last second though.
I think that is the strength of BlossoM. They seem like they have actually a pretty good early game, all the way up to level 10.
They have so much improved.
Exactly, except when it comes to the late game and getting that 5-man death ball that you typically see in a lot of teams and trying to find a macro decision that's effective, they fall completely flat. We saw it multiple times here on Dragonshire. Remember when they grabbed that dragon in one of their matches where they didn't push the bottom and went top for experience? That was a poor call. And speaking of possibly poor call, Sign taking some damage here in the middle, able to get on out, and Tempest runs for Nasam here, who's out of position, and he is down. All
right, first blood going over to Tempest after almost 5 minutes here. Game started off a little slower, but I think things are going to change here quite quickly. Very now surrounded by multiple members trying to protect himself using the parry up to this point, but Lockdown still too healthy. There goes another W, but he ends up falling. The good thing about Varian dying is, though, that his deaths will always have meaning.
That they will. Remember that one cinematic? I remember that one cinematic. BlossoM getting engaged on again in the middle, and Tempest has started to find a little bit of momentum here. 3 kills in the last minute. Another pickoff. Definitely hurting BlossoM here. Tempest taking a lead in experience and are in a position where if they would like to make a play towards the top to grab the shrine.
And I really love how Maiev is mind-gaming the opponents of BlossoM here. On the one hand, if Maiev uses the Umbral Bind on you, you want to stay close here, right? You don't want to take the damage and
hug her.
Drop. You want to hug her. I mean, I'm not sure.
She does not like hugs.
But yeah, and then by staying close to her, you have heroes like ETC and Malfurion, and they're going to be like, hey, you want to stay close to us, bros? You know what? You're going to get stunned, you're going to ruin it, and you're going to take it out.
This was one of the first combos that was discussed whenever Maiev came out. Hang on, Sign in a position to try and grab that dragon. At the same time, bottom lane taking a little pressure. Modern walks away because he wants to come in for a kill. Can he get it? He does with the help of Uther. So the first kill on the board here for BlossoM. Now they need to grab the shrine. Wiz himself low on health, and Dami thinking about going for it. Dami runs on in. Wiz, he's holding Q to get the heals. Will it be up in time? Wiz trying to outplay Dami. Dami's low on health, but High is going to be able to take the channel, but no! Mive gets landed on with another 4th shot, and she will fall. Another kill for BlossoM.
Wiz is showing Tempest how it's done there with a great outplay, using all that self-sustain and the mobility of Malthael that you oftentimes seem to forget about when you're trying to go for those dives. Wonderfully done. I mean, it probably wasn't the most impactful of kills because no objective is immediately going to be grabbed after, but it was definitely a statement that BlossoM has the individual player class to take it all on with Tempest.
It gets to 10 at least, and that's pretty impactful in itself. BlossoM now 10 against Tempest, has a slight lead as well. Modern starting some poke here on the bottom lane while Nassan comes in for a stun. BlossoM having control of both shrines are looking to maybe set up for a dragon, but with Wiz Orgulus here grabbing the Night Camp and ETC in the very top, looks like that will not be the main goal for them.
Yeah, and Genji, Dudu is under a lot of trouble. The Umbral Blind can't execute him up to this point, but he had to retreat, and that sometimes is almost as problematic as falling. Teleporting all the way back to the Halls of Storm is going to take several seconds away from your team, missing a member, and that gives so much shrine control over to Tempest. Now only the top lane remaining in the hands of Wiz. Now, what is Tempest going to do here? The XP count is still fairly even, but look at all those triggers here on Tempest. They have the Twilight Dream, the Sanctification, even the cage, the Warden's Cage. Everything is set up here for a big team fight.
I'm watching BlossoM, so I'm trying to figure out how they break a fight against Tempest that doesn't allow for Maiev and ETC to get the engage they want. Right. That's the difficult part, right? Get over that front line that's coming your way, and also you still have to worry about Tyrael, by the way, that's dropping shield and a Sanctification. I think most of it comes down to finding a rotation that is forward from Tempest, get a taunt, and then grab the kill as soon as possible. We still, by the way, have not gotten heroics for Junkrat and Malthael.
I was going to say, is that a world where we see the Rocket Ride coming in to prevent a Maiev ETC combo and deny the experience value? Is this a world where we see Tormented Souls to basically punish all that clumping up by Tempest?
I mean, to be honest, we have a composition from BlossoM where we want Variant to be effective, right? And you want burst damage to come in. Rocket Ride does provide that burst.
True.
Also has the follow-up of the trait from Junkrat. If you land a target and you keep them in spot, you can get a kill and Junkrat can come back to the fight. And the disengage, pretty decent here from BlossoM. Uther can keep that Variant alive, protection constantly popping out. As long as the Malfurion route doesn't land, Junkrat and a Rocket Ride can work. Now, with that being said, Riptire is like 500 times better, but we're casters.
We talked about this during the draft, like how good Riptire is, right? The versatility, the flexibility, you can use it. You can use it to trade cooldowns oftentimes. Like if you trade a Riptire just to proc, let's say, Sanctification, right? Yeah. You're already on the winning side.
The main issue, too, is that Stage Dive has been chosen, meaning that if you're going for an all-in engage with a Variant taunt into possibly this Rocket Ride, ETC prevents that cutoff from you being able to escape by coming in behind you with the Stage Dive. Knockback, power slide, prevents you from getting away. Maiev chases you down. So that is something that you have to worry about. You have to get the kill before ETC can get behind your back line and be effective.
And I love this Stage Dive pick here, by the way. Oftentimes, ETC players, in my opinion, are a little bit too stubborn when it comes to forcing and making those big mosh pit plays. But if you take a look at BlossoM's composition here, they exclusively are run by squishies in the backline, with the exception maybe of Variant, who's normally trying to really be in the thick of things. But if you have a Stage Dive really forcing people to fight here because they're so slowed, then all the other heroes can follow up. The Malfurion routes are going to be easier to hit. The Tyrael has an easier time following up. So Stage Dive, in my opinion, is so underrated, even the pro player.
Stage Dive is here, and Sign may have to use it to
escape. It's a good escape, too.
He goes to this backside over here, hoping his teammate can come help him. Tyrael rotating up as well as Malfurion and Maiev. BlossoM is able to get a heroic to be used. That means it's down for 60 more seconds.
Yeah, that means, of course, ETC can no longer go for this Dehaka-esque playstyle where he goes on the side lane, tries to pressure a little bit, only to arrive in the nick of time to help his buddies in prime. Now, let's see what Sign is going to do here. Now, he's going to have to play much more carefully now, but I love the split-second decision-making here, actually teleporting not too far away with that Stage Dive so that his allies could always catch up.
Mr. Varian main, what's that level 13?
Yes, my good sir.
What's that level 13 on Varian?
That level 13 is Mortal Strike, and it prevents all healing done, including self-healing. Now, Shattering Throw, of course, remains. Hold that thought. We're going to have a combo here. Maiev goes in. Divine Shield immediately popped on the Variant. He stays alive. I'm not sure if Variant actually needed the Divine Shield. He probably still had a stack or two. Here comes the Riptire.
Riptire as well coming in there with Tormented Souls. Sanification will stop that and mitigate the damage coming in. Varian still has that taunt. He can turn around and focus the target. They jump straight on top of Malfurion. Malfurion kiting away though with the help of the teammates. He even steps forward, drops down the Twilight Dream, and Uther is gone.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the consequence when you use Divine Shield too early on a target that didn't necessarily need it. Varian, I think, would have been just fine. They could have either used it to save Uther himself, to maybe allow someone else to stay in the fight there, but as it is, Tempest clutching it out here. Dami now is going to go in for round 2 against Wiz. That is going to be quite the show. I think Malthael is still a pretty potent foe to face, and here comes ETC. Wiz smelled the pie, though, and got himself to safety in time.
Wiz still has to back up, and Malfurion has the window to grab the Dragon Knight, and there we go. Tempest has a Dragon in the middle lane. Wiz possibly going to fall too. Power Slide comes out, able to cleanse himself, but no, the tether from Dami will secure the kill, and Tempest will now move towards the middle lane, break down a well, and look for a fort.
I think that's exactly what they're going to do, Trixler. I mean, a beautiful timing there on the self-cleanse by Malthael, but there's only so much you can do, and I love the coordination by Tempest as well, patiently waiting, not using all their CC momentum at the same time. And now we have, actually, is that Malfurion the Dragon Knight? That is actually curious to see. Like, there was so much stuff going on in the maps that normally the support isn't really supposed to pilot it, but with Wiz dying and the map looking pretty red right now in general, I think it's safe to say that even the support can hop onto the Dragon Knight in that case.
Yeah, and he also just used Twilight Dream too,
exactly.
So it's up now after being against the Dragon, but they were like, hey, you know what, we don't really need Malfurion here, we have Shields from Tyrael, our disengage is pretty solid too, with ETC to back us up. And as long as we don't overstep our bounds, there's nothing that really can come and kill us. So Tempest plays it safe, they get another engage, a grab into a punt. I have not seen that interaction before, but it looked pretty scary as Genji had a dash away.
Did Maiev just Umbro bind the target behind the Dragon Knight and then had a massive punt in the backline? That was pretty cool. Never saw that one before.
We'll say that was completely planned by
All
Dami.
planned, easy peasy.
Speaking of Dami, he has been having a pretty consistent tournament this weekend, destroying on every role that he has been on. I kind of miss Han Kano on the old Tempest roster, but I'll say Dami is delivering on the assassin play here.
Yeah, Dami, I mean, he's oftentimes considered the best melee assassin player in Korea next to Rich, and I think Rich and him are going to have a nice rivalry if this tournament goes on like that. However, speaking of Dami, he's going in. The Warden's cage is real, but so is the Sanctification. Everything is being used here. Here comes the Riptire once again.
Tire falls up. They'll be looking over to Tyrael. Tyrael gets focused down, and good will fall, but here's a stage dive into a power slide. Dudu goes down. Gondor hoping to retreat, and Wiz is lagging behind, but Lockdown on that Odin is chasing him, comes in for the AoE damage, hitting Gondor on the side. One last protection just for a good case there, but he eventually falls, and Wiz seems to be the next target here, trying to sustain on the Merc camp, but I don't think he's going to be able to. A grenade hits him, and that's 4 targets down for 1.
Lockdown was just having a good time seeing Wiz panic here. He was thinking like, you know what, we're going to actually delay it a couple more seconds so we have a longer death timer on you, buddy. You can run away from that. Beautifully done by Tempest, of course, losing Tyrael, but hey, that was super worth it. By the way, Tyrael not going for the Holy Ground this time around. He's going for a more European style here with a Law and Order. There we go.
Law and Order providing more impactful shields and also more impactful damage on that smite. If you're able to balance the two and hit multiple targets both times, you really get a lot of value out of that talent. I've gotten to the point where I've become a Law and Order believer now, man. I would marathon that Law and Order all day, every day here. Has been pretty darn effective.
Yeah, I'm still not a big fan of the show, to be honest, but I think the talent is definitely worth picking now in the game. It's so good. I totally agree with you. Like, when this talent came out, I was like, no way it's good enough.
Holy Ground.
It's Holy Ground, after all. One of the most impactful talents you could go for it, even with a Horadric of Forging at 16, where you can have even more Holy Grounding.
Sure.
I'm actually positively surprised every time I pick that talent myself, though. Like, the additional shielding you get, the additional damage on the smite you get, it's just so good.
And another factor you can also look at, too, is that there's no BlossoM's Battleground, so you don't really need that Holy Ground as much. You can have some pinches available in the corridors over there, but if an opponent realizes you have that Holy Ground, they'll just sacrifice and walk away. So Tempest now ahead 2 levels, a 19 to 17 and a quarter. They have a massive push in the top lane. They have an ETC that can bolster out that push if you would like because of Stage Dive. They are in the driver's seat right now. BlossoM needs to find a way to force a fight soon or be prepared to give up this Dragon Knight that's coming out because they will not have 20 before then.
Yeah, and we can really see how BlossoM is kind of struggling right now because very rarely are they the aggressors. Very rarely are they the ones to really make a play happen, and Varian just really thrives in an environment like that. But there is no one to really follow up on. You know, Malthael, he takes a little bit longer. Uther is not really what you consider a secondary tank next to Varian. So because of Varian not having a good time, because of Gondar struggling once more, the entire team of BlossoM is looking a little bit shaky.
Look how BlossoM is trying to look for a fight, but Tempest knows this. They put Tira on the left side, they put Maiev on the right. Both having abilities to get out of a fight if they need to, if they were to be surprised by BlossoM. Good reads there by Tempest, and 20 with one more minion wave should be coming their way, and that should equal a dragon. Now, there are a couple things BlossoM can do. They can either A, play defensive and wait it out, right? Just grab Giants, back up if you need to, or B, try to get a surprise kill. That one's more riskier, but it's possible. The thing is if they lose a dragon, they're definitely losing keep here, and if they lose any members on their side of the map, they will lose their core.
And there is a reason why Tempest is the #1 seed in Korea right now. We mentioned it many times before in this tournament. Their late game is impeccable. Actually, one of the few teams who could maybe go toe-to-toe with Ballistics and KSV Black in that regard. And they're using all of their trump cards right now. The Dragon Knight, the 20, they're lining up, they're posturing up, and slowly and methodically, they're going to take this bottom lane. Why bottom? Because it's the easiest lane. You've got the most space there to really shuffle around, avoid those variant engages very well, and just slowly but surely take all those structures down.
All right, Modern, it's time to work here. See if you can get someone thrown the wall. Doesn't happen there, but the poke coming out to work on that dragon, putting it down to a quarter health. Wiz will be helping out as well as BlossoM sets up for defense, but Tempest, they pop the Odin. They know what they want.
The Odin is launching a nuclear fire up here with those bombs, and then we see Dami getting just ready. He doesn't even care who he's going to lock down. Even a variant doesn't care. Protect it as much as you want. We're still going to take you down eventually. The Dragon Knight, in the meantime, pounding on that core like there was no tomorrow. That Mighty X is going to chunk down eventually.
BlossoM got some good separation here between the Dragon Knight and the rest of the team of Tempest, but Tempest finds the engage they want. They come in with the Maiev, they get the tether, and they pick off 3. Tempest 5 strong toward the core, lands acidification as well, will pop it down slowly but surely, but they got game #1 in the bag as they look towards Wiz.
Yeah, that's going to be it. Unfortunately, my boy Varian not really able to surprise and convince us here at the Eastern Clash, but well-deserved outcome for Tempest. Too crisp was their execution, too clean was their draft, and from start to finish, it looked like BlossoM didn't really have a battle plan coming into this.
Yeah, BlossoM coming in here in the early stage all the way to up level 10 did all right, stayed in the game, but after the team fight started to break out, you saw the weaknesses of a variant composition. You have to have the burst, you have to find a kill. And Tempest made sure that did not happen every single time. They got to a point where they got through the initial taunt and were able to counter-engage with the Malfurion.
I was actually watching the entire game, and for the longest time I was wondering, when does that game plan come together? I was waiting for that X moment when all of a sudden I'm like, okay, that's what they're doing here. I was even thinking about Colossal Blade into Last Rites and trying to play around those 2 cooldowns, trying to make something happen in terms of kill pressure. But it felt that every single time their plan centered around Malthael in particular. Yeah. And once he popped his ult, there was a sanctification, and that's the team fight gone.
And once again, it's the 2 players we've been kind of criticizing before the game started. It is Nasang on the support role and Gondar on Varian in that case. And you oftentimes saw how Divine Shields were kind of wasted or used too early, too late in that last team fight. Malthael could never really start an engage like that. And Gondar, of course, being, unfortunately, the black sheep here, really trying to make stuff happen, but his team composition didn't really work for that.
Yeah, I think going into the next draft, I'm expecting them to adjust their draft a little bit more.
They have to change it all the way.
Yeah, they need to give a good warrior to Gandor, someone that he is comfortable on. Because while I don't think that was Gandor's fault, I think that was more a variant issue more than it was really a player issue. It's still, you don't want to be put into a spot where you're putting your tank on a hero that he is unable to be successful with, and you also don't line up for your draft. Not having the burst is just really breaking my mind right now.
Yeah, also, I talked a bit to Rich about the game when